Start our recording there. Our speaker today, do you have blind spots? What if your biggest blind spot could become your greatest strength? Our speaker today knows about blind spots. His resulted in brain surgery. It changed him so much that he wrote the book entitled, Sometimes It Does Take a Brain Surgeon. He grew up on a tomato farm in Northwest Ohio as the youngest of 10 kids. A former IT salesman, Brian is now a speaker and author while working at the Ohio State School for the Blind. He has a clear focus. It is to help others identify and move beyond their blind spots. You could say he's on a mission. Since his brain surgery in 2011, Brian has given a TED Talk, published a book, and ran a half marathon, all as part of his effort to inspire others. Brian is here today to share ideas that will help us move beyond our blind spots without the need for brain surgery. Please join me in welcoming Brian Wagner. Brian, welcome.
Brian! Brian! Come here! I've got something for you. It's the registration for the Elmwood Royal football camp. You've always wanted to play football, and you've always wanted to be an Elmwood Royal. This is your chance. Wow. Mom was more excited than I was, but I was excited. Isn't it great when your loved ones around you get excited when good things happen for you? Oh, it was great because I got to go to this football camp, and that's all I ever wanted to do. At the age of 10, in 1977, so real quick, that makes me 52 for another few weeks. At the age of 10, I would be out in the front yard while my dad and brothers were going off into the fields on their tractors. So I'd be in the front yard playing by myself. So I would take the height from the virtual center, and I would be hut one, hut two, height. And I'd hike the ball to myself. And then I'd hand the ball off to myself. Or if I wanted to change it up, I would throw the ball to myself. Oddly enough, I usually scored. Friday nights at our house were all about football. Having 7 older brothers, I got to watch them play quite often. But we'd be while the game was going on at my brother's games, I'd be in the, near the end zone or under the stands, always playing football with my friends. So when I grew up, I grew up in a room with my brother. Not only did we share a room, we shared a bed, but on the wall of our bedroom was this poster of Bart Starr. And so Bart Starr was one of those people that I wanted to be when I was in front yard playing, with different names, or I'd be Fran Tarkington or Terry Bradshaw. That's who I wanted to be. But really, who I wanted to be like Bart Starr that we got out of a cereal box. I wanted to be on that poster in the cereal box. So football camp was the beginning of all that. Well, first day of football camp came, and I was excited because I got to wear a special shirt that said my name and it said Elmwood Royals. I got to play football, hold the grips of the football, and I could feel the lace, so I could feel that football in my hands. Man, it was awesome. And the smell of the grass. But the other thing about football was the football camp is I got to hit other people, and my mom couldn't get mad at me. It was important for me to be at football camp. Well, first day of football camp came, and we were working on our conditioning. So we were running. It was awesome. Second day of camp, well, I was a little tired at the end of the day, but second day of camp came, and we were working on our blocking and tackling. So it was hut one, hut two, hut three, and somebody would say hike, and then you'd get up and you'd pop the other guy on the other side of the line. We were playing football. That's what we wanted to do. It was great. Day 3 of camp came. I was blindsided. And it didn't happen on the football field. I don't even remember what we covered that day. At the end of the day, I walked home, or I got home, walked into the house and laid on the couch. I had to get up to use the restroom, and that's the last thing that I remember. I blacked out, and my mom took me from hospital to hospital to hospital to find out what was wrong with her youngest son. And there, finally at the Medical College of Ohio, they determined that I had hydrocephalus. That's cephalus, not syphilis. I always got those two confused. But I was 10. Well, they took me in for surgery right away, and I had a shunt put into my brain. It runs down the side of my head, inside, on the outside of my skull and the inside of my skin, all the way down to my abdomen. It drains the excess cranial fluid from my brain to my abdomen, which was a VP shunt. Many of you know what they are. Well, a few days later, the doctor came into my room. He said, "Mr. Wagner, how are you doing?" "Doing good. I'm doing really good. When can I get back to football camp?" "Football camp? I'm sorry, son, but your football career is over." "Over? Over? How could it be over? I hadn't even started yet." He said, "Just go live your life." So that's what I did. I just went and lived my life. You know, as soon as I was able, I wanted to get back on the football field. So I joined the Signet Royals. They were a feeder team that fed up to the Elmwood Royals. You know, they were actually my junior high team. But I didn't join them as a player. I joined them as a water boy. It was anything I could do to keep football in my life. I remember going out there and smelling the fresh cut grass and all the sweat and the water and it was awesome. I loved it. So I got to ask you, we're all different. I know we're all different here on this call today. But what sets you apart? What makes you unique? As I'm telling you my story, I encourage you to drift off and think of what it is that sets you apart and how maybe someday you could do something with that, because that's where we're going. We're going to the point where you begin to understand what it is that you can do with what sets you apart. So for the next 33 years, I met and married my wife, Connie. I mean, there were many medical maladies along the way. Now, Connie wasn't one of them, but we also moved to Chicago back in 1990, and then we began our family with Grant, Jess, and Colin. Well, one of those days in Chicago, it was a hot summer day, and I was on one of my health kicks, and I went out for a run. This was in 1992. You know, it felt good to be running, and towards the end of the run, I ran for maybe a mile, but I wanted to make sure Connie knew that I'd been running. So she would always give me a hard time, which I probably deserved. And as I got towards the end of the run, I started to sprint really fast because, I mean, that would make me, a little more out of breath and maybe a little more sweatier. Well, I finished the run and everything was fine. Took a shower, came out, and I was going to sit down and watch the Cubs game because that's what I like to do. And I had a cup of coffee because on a hot summer day, coffee seems like a good idea. I'm not sure why. But I had this cup of coffee, and I noticed when I grabbed the cup, my fingers seemed kind of numb. Even to today, they still feel numb. And when I felt my face felt like I'd just been to the dentist's office and Novocaine hadn't worn off yet. Now, my face is not quite as numb as it used to be, but it is a little bit. Well, they took me to the University of Chicago, where I went in for tests, and I went in for a few days. Well, one of the tests that they gave me was called an angiogram. I'm sure you all know what an angiogram is, but is where you have a needle with a tube attached to it, and you route this needle into a vein. And then when you route it into the vein, you route it to wherever you want to look at the different blood vessels that are around that area. So for me, it was in my brain. Well, they told me that the vein closest to my brain was actually in my groin. Really? Well, that's what they said. So I went ahead and let them do the procedure. But as I was being wheeled in for the procedure, you know, the nurse looked at me and she said, "Mr. Wagner, I'm surprised you're doing so well." Well, most people in your condition are in a coma. Now, I'm not sure if she was trying to make me feel better, but if she was, it really didn't work. Well, the results, I did the angiogram and everything was fine, but the results came back and they were not fine. The results came back worse than they had hoped. I have what's called a cavernous malformation, or a CAV-mal, and I know there's probably some different name nomenclature around those names and how they're called, what they are. But my CAV-mal was in my brainstem. So the doctors went back and they looked for different procedures that they could employ on me to get rid of this. You know, there was no gamma knife, none of that would work. In the end, they said there's really nothing that we can do. They said, "You're not a candidate." You're not a candidate? How can I not be a candidate? It was like something else and being taken away from me. You're not a candidate unless there are no other options. My next question was actually my wife's question. My wife's name happens to be Connie. I mentioned that name earlier, and just to make sure that we all understand, it is not the Connie Lee that's on the call, that's leading the call. My Connie is Connie Bruggemeyer. So are there any limitations, she asked. And they said, no, there are no limitations. Well, we recommend you stay away from weightlifting. Weightlifting? Well, I was never very disciplined about that anyways. I'd be happy to give up weightlifting. But this is the point where I had to inform my wife, Connie, that I wouldn't be able to take out the trash or do the laundry or sweep for the rest of my life. Like you, she laughed and said, "Guess again." But in the end, they said to just go live your life. That's the moral of the story. So right about now, you've all been wandering. You've been thinking a little bit about what it is you have. So I encourage you to continue down that path. Continue to understand what makes you unique. And then we'll come back. It was March 3rd of 2011. I was on an all-day training session in Cleveland, Ohio. I parked in a parking garage, and when I did, I knew where I'd parked because I could see the sky when I got out of my car. So after the training was over, my eyes just seemed a little, I don't know, blurry. Something was wrong. Something wasn't quite right. But when I got to my car in that parking garage, I now had to go down those 7 flights of that building. It was nerve-wracking. I'd started to lose some of my 3-dimensional vision. So only being 2-dimensional, it was a little nerve-wracking. But when I got into my car, everything seemed like it was right on top of me until I put it in reverse. And when that backup camera came on, none of the bells and whistles went off. So I realized that everything was okay. Well, I backed out of my parking spot and I started to head down that garage. Man, it seemed to take forever. But it was nice because I had people that were encouraging me. I mean, there were people behind me that were honking their horns. And I mean, I even had one guy tell me that I was number 1. It was great. Well, I finally reached the bottom of the garage, and I reached my new nemesis, the toll booth. Man, those things are really difficult when you only have one eye, because it always seems like I get too close or not close enough. After the toll booth, and this time it went okay, but it's a good thing I have these things on my car. What are they called? Disposable mirrors? Maybe they're not disposable, but they could be, as far as I'm concerned. Well, I did get through this one okay. And I got on the road, and I realized that I had no idea how to get back to the interstate. So I had this new car. It was a 2011 Ford Taurus, and it had all the bells and whistles. It had, auto collision control. It had this backup camera. It had blind spot detection. It was everything I could imagine. And then when I got on the road and I realized I didn't know how to get to the interstate, I used another one of the new features on this car. I used the GPS, and I hit the home button. Don't we all need to do that at times? Just hit the home button and go back to reset. Well, I hit the home button. It told me how to get back to the interstate. And I got to the interstate, but man, my eyes were still bothering me. I got off at the first rest area, and I called my wife, Connie, and I said, Connie, I don't know what's going on. I think I'm just tired. So I'm going to try to get some sleep, and I'll get back on the road. Well, we'd hang up the phone, and I'd try to get some sleep, but I'd get frustrated, and I'd walk around the car, and then I'd come back, and I'd sit back down in the car. But looking back on it, I realized that in the driver's seat is the last place that I should have been. I should have stopped and asked for help. There's no shame in ever asking for help. Whether it's something that's going on with your vision, something is physical like that, or if maybe it's something mental. There is no shame in ever asking someone for help. So don't be afraid to do that. Well, I'd get back in the car seat, and I'd get back, and I'd get to the next rest area, and then I'd pull over, and we'd go through the same thing. Get to the next rest area. It took me about 4 hours to get home on this 2-hour car ride. And then I got home, went to sleep on the couch because I didn't want to, wake anybody up. So I didn't want to, bother them. But the next morning on March 4th, I woke up at 3 a.m. And when you wake up at 3 a.m. and you're over 40, there's only really one place you need to go. Well, I stumbled across the way, and I ran into furniture. I'm like, man, did Connie move the furniture again? It was frustrating. Everything seemed to be so much darker than normal. Well, when I got to the restroom, I went to flip the light switch on. But when I did, nothing seemed to happen. When I turned towards the mirror, I could tell that there was some light coming out of the slits in the bottom of my eyes. So the power was on. When I looked towards the mirror and I lifted my eyelids like this, I could see I had two eyeballs, but they didn't go together. My face was swollen because of the bleeding, and my eyes just have never seen on the same plane since. Well, my wife heard the commotion, and she came downstairs, and she's like, Brian, what happened? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what happened. As soon as we were able, we went to the emergency room. And at the emergency room, after hours and hours of waiting and hours of tests, the doctor came in and he said, Mr. Wagner, I'm afraid your cavernous malformation has bled, instead of just putting pressure on the nerves to control your vision. We're recommending that you have brain surgery. Brain surgery? What do you mean, brain surgery? You told me never to let someone operate on my brainstem. What's changed? That's when I had to understand that I was blind. The doctor looked at me and he said, the problems you have are only going to become worse and more frequent. Worse and more frequent. Worse and more frequent. Those words stuck with me for the next 27 days. They recommended one guy, one subject matter expert. His name was Dr. Robert Spetzler in Phoenix, Arizona. So in those next 27 days, I applied to be able to be seen and have surgery by Dr. Spetzler. And I was able to be approved. So I went and met him one day, and the next day I had surgery. Is there one person for you in your life, whether it's medical or not? Is there one coach, one mentor, one teacher, one friend? Maybe it's a spouse. Are they that one for you that you've leaned on and you've gone to? Well, at this time, Dr. Spetzler was that one for me. And this is the point where I had to decide whether I was blind. I was blind and I wouldn't be able to see. But going from blind was the hardest thing that I've ever done, because, I had to realize and sitting on the front porch and wait for a ride. That was really frustrating for me. And I'm sure you've had instances like that as well, where you have to rely on other people. But those other people, they want to help you. So you got to let them help you. So sitting on the front porch was frustrating. Walking into the wrong restroom was really awkward. But even more awkward was when I used it. It was also difficult when my wife really did move the furniture. But things are getting better because I made a deal. I made a deal with God. Haven't we all done that at times? God, if I can just get through this, I want to be able to help other people. If I can get through being blind, I want to be able to help other people. And that's the deal that I made. And that's the deal that I'm keeping. And that's why I'm here with you today, is to help you. Not only to help you be inspired, but to do something else with your life, to be that encourager for other people as well. Because if you can do it, I know you can do it, and you can help other people do it. That's why I'm here. That's why you're here. It's all because of the deal. Well, I had a lot of encouragers of my own. So this is where we've been at the bottom now. We're okay. We're coming back up. But this is the part where I was coming back up, and my wife, Connie, she wanted to encourage me. And I wasn't ready to be encouraged. But if I understood that her encouragement was for the right reasons, she was trying to help me. She took me out on walks. She took me walks, but I had no idea she wanted me to go down this treacherous terrain. Look at that. Well, there was ledges on the right and ledges on the left, and there's undulations. Isn't that a great word? Undulations. But if I walked down that sidewalk the other way, those undulations weren't the same. Everything changed. My perspective changed. And your perspective can change if you just let it. Let those encouragers, let those people that are there to pick you up for rides, let them do what they want to do, because they're doing it with an encouraging mind. So it's all about perspective. I had a lot of encouragers in my life. There was one encourager as well, and this was my daughter, Jess. She was 13 at the time, and she wrote me this Father's Day letter. It's pretty special to me. Do you mind if I share it with you? Dear Dad, happy Dad's Day. I hope you have a great day because you definitely deserve it. All the cards and TV commercials say, my dad's the best, but they're all lying. You're the best ever. Sure, other people's dads are great. They're younger than you, and they're sportier, and they're funnier. But you've got something that they don't have. Bravery. Even after everything you've been through, you still get out of bed in the morning. You still joke around and play with us and cook on the grill, even though you only have half of one good eye. But you do more still. You teach me that even if you go through the toughest, most grueling things, if you just believe that God is right there with you through everything, believe that everything turns out okay in the end, believe that sometimes the only thing you can do is hope beyond hope, then maybe you'll make it out alive. Not always unscathed, but alive. And giving me that hope, that sense of belief, well, I take that over a dad with two good eyes any day. Love, 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 Jess. How many of you have ever received a card like that? I got a better question. How many of you have written a card like that? Huh. This is where you get a chance to, if you're watching this on a recording, you can pause the tape. If not, you can just take some time right now and either write it down, tell a friend. Just remember that name. Remember that name, that one we talked about earlier? That one person you needed? This is a time to talk to them now, to tell them what you mean to them, or what they mean to you, excuse me. As I said, I had a lot of encouragers. And over the last few weeks, few months really, dealing with the coronavirus and the crisis that we're under, there's a lot going on. And with the murder of George Floyd, all of that, we just have to understand that there's a point in our lives, if we want to get better, if we want to be more positive, we want to be that person that encourages other people. You've got to be a positive person yourself. So how do you be that positive person? Well, I'm going to give you 3 ways you can be a more positive person, more positive than what you are today. And the first one seems obvious. Turn off the news. Just stop listening to the news for a little bit. Understand you're not digging yourself, putting your head in the sand, but you're understanding that there's a time where enough's enough, because you're not going to be positive. There's a study out that says that 27% of people that watch the news in the morning are more likely to have a bad day. 27% more likely to have a bad day if you watch the morning news. Focus on what brings you joy. That's something that I've done a lot with, is to focus on what brings me joy. A good friend of mine said this to me the other day, and I'm like, why would I do that? Well, I got to thinking about it, and I enjoy pizza. I enjoy a campfire. I enjoy talking about my dad. All those things bring me joy. So when I get in those states of, I feel dysfunctional or just having a bad day, if I can focus on what brings me joy, like standing and sitting with you and having this conversation, it brings me joy because I'm able to do what I want to do. I'm able to do what I'm supposed to be doing. not what I was doing. That brings me joy. And then call somebody. Just call somebody for them. Don't focus so much on your own problems, because we've all got problems. Everybody's got something to deal with in life. But ask somebody else how they're doing. How are you doing? What can I do for you? How can I lift you up? And then your life is going to begin to change. Well, I know we had about 35 minutes for this presentation today, and we're already over 30. So I'm going to just go for a little bit more, but I'm going to tell you about some other people that were encouraging me. Well, one of these people, his name was KARY. And KARY encouraged me to be able to go forward and to start my own company. He said, you know, there's lots of good things to be had here, but he understands that, you know, you just need to keep going. You need to keep your day job, for one. Don't quit your day job. And so I did, and I went from job to job to job, and nothing seemed to work, but I did stay with him and continued down this path. So there's where I went with what I had to give, with what I knew was my mission in life, was to be able to help other people. KARY helped me with that. And I formed a company, and it's called Radical Vision. And it's not only what I have, but it's what I give to other people. It's a radical vision. And that's why it's so important. There's lots that I can tell you about. There's one final story that I'd like to leave you with. I think we have about 2 or 3 minutes. So I would say the one final story that I'd like to leave you with was when I found out what my name was. You found out what your name is? Yes, I found out what my name was. I was in one of my last information technology jobs, and I walked into this client, and we were sitting there, and actually my engineer and me, we traveled together as a pack, and my engineer and me, his name is Bill. Well, we went up to this one client, and we were getting ready to get checked in, so you have to go through the guard shack. Well, at the guard shack, there was a lady there, and she wanted to take my name and write my name down and put it on a badge for me. And so she said, well, what's your name? And her head was down the entire time as she was talking. Well, I said, my name's Brian. And so she's looking down at her paper, and she's like, Brian, okay, how do you spell that? And I said, my name's Brian. It's Brian with one I. And she never looked up. My friend, she never looked up, but my friend Bill, I thought he was going to pee his pants. Have you ever seen somebody laughing just so hard? Well, after that meeting was over, I got back in my car and I'm headed back home, and I'm like, that's who I am. I'm Brian with one eye. Okay, that was pretty cool. So that's when I began to understand what my name was. Not only what my name was, but what makes me unique. And what makes me unique is not the look on my face. What makes me unique, what sets me apart, is my positive personality. And you all have positive personalities as well. I'm sure you all have something else that makes you unique, that makes you that person that you can encourage other people, like I've encouraged you here today. I'm Brian with one eye. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Brian, could you unshare your screen just for the moment so that both of us are half screen? There we go. Good job. All right. Thank you. That was wonderful. And you know, if we run short on question times or on questions, if we have more time after questions and you have more things that you would like to share with us that we didn't fit into the 35 minutes, I'll make sure that you get the opportunity to do that.
Thank you.
We did have some questions that came during the time that you were talking, and let me just start sharing them with you. Mostly this is about your experience with the illness. So one person has asked, I have a brainstem cavernoma too, and similarly suffer from numbness. How long did it take yours to improve?
That's funny. Like I said, I had an original numbness in 92. It went away pretty quickly. I mean, within 2 weeks. I had, at that point, they'd given me some steroids to take. And then when this bleed happened in 2011, Dr. Spetzler said, hey, that steroid, you're taking for the bleed and the numbness and all that, it's probably not really working out that much anymore, because after the initial bleed, then it kind of doesn't do as much. So after the one in 2011, I actually still have numbness on the right side of my body. I have a little numbness in my fingers. I have a little numbness in my foot and my right leg, but that's never going away.
Okay. Next question. So this question was given to us in two parts, and I'm going to start with the second part and move back up to the first part, which has the actual question. So this person's son was diagnosed with the brainstem cavernoma. After his initial bleed, he improved to the point where you can't tell that he has any issues. We recently contacted a surgeon in Phoenix. It's not Dr. Spetzler, though, because he has retired. And he gave the same diagnosis as you received: no surgery unless it is necessary. Would you share the impact that the surgery, when you finally had it, had on your neurological system?
So that took a little while for that to really take place. So initially, I went in for surgery, and that same day I was walking the hall, the same day of having brain surgery, and I thought that was really odd. But then the next morning at noon the next day, I was discharged from the hospital, and all I had was this little bottle of extra strength Tylenol, and that was it. I mean, they did give me a prescription for Percocet, and I wanted to stay away from that until I went on the plane to come back home. Well, I took it right before I got on the plane, and that was the wrong thing to do. So I had been moving around a lot, and the Percocet caused me to get very sick for about 3 days, until we figured out, well, my wife figured out, that I should have stayed away from the Percocet. So in terms of the actual symptoms that I had, the neurological symptoms, they went away fairly quickly, but there were some other issues at hand.
Okay, thanks. And then one more question. My husband has a brainstem CCM and has severe head pain. I'm going to start with dividing the question into two. The first part of it is this something you experienced?
Actually, I was fortunate with my condition. I did not have headaches. I had headaches when I had the venous, not the venous. I had the hydrocephalus back when I was 10. I had a lot of headaches when I was a kid, but when I was in 2011, I had no headaches to speak of.
Okay, all right. Then the second half of the question doesn't apply. Someone else wants to know how many brainstem bleeds you've had altogether, and that person has been made aware that they have had at least one serious one and 2 to 3 mild bleeds. And then they also want to know if your symptoms worsen when you're tired.
Yes, they worsen when I'm tired. So when I was younger, my mom could always tell when I was tired. She's like, well, Brian, your right eye is drooping. So it's drooping now, but it's drooping a lot. Yes, so that happened a lot when I got tired. But now it's just always drooping, and I always look tired. But what was the other part of the question in terms of?
The other part was how many bleeds have you had?
Oh, so I've had at least 5 or 6 for sure. There's probably been other ones that have happened. So I had double vision a few times when I had bleeds. I had some numbness down the right side of my body when I'd had bleeds. It was obvious that something had happened. I didn't all the time go in for MRIs. I usually did, but there were maybe one or two times where I didn't.
Okay. And then before we got together, someone sent in some questions. And again, one question was about your symptoms. Do you have any symptoms that come back from time to time that worsen still, even though you've had surgery?
Yeah, and there are no symptoms that come back. I mean, obviously, you know, I don't look like everybody else, but yeah, there's no other symptoms that I have that come back from time to time.
Okay. And then she also asks, do you have other senses, or are your other senses besides your vision heightened as a result of being blind?
Actually, it's not the opposite, but no, they haven't been. My kids tell me that I'm hard of hearing, but my kids are 20, 22, 25, so yeah, they're able to give their dad a hard time, I guess. But no, I don't have any other symptoms. My other senses are not heightened.
Okay. And then I get to ask questions too. So you shared with me a little bit beforehand when we were talking about your work at the Ohio State School for the Blind. Can you share a little bit of that? And is there anything in particular that you think people should know about that?
Yeah, there's a lot to be shared. I mean, I've been there for about 3 years now, and the change that has taken place in me has been incredible. I mean, I didn't know anything about the kids at the School for the Blind. I didn't know what sort of situation they were in. I really was very naive, and they've just opened my eyes to the possibilities that blind people can do and they can achieve, especially with the technology that we're given today. It's just been incredible to see the advances. And even without the technology, they're still the most patient, perseverant, giving. They're just wonderful people, not just the students, but also the teachers, because some of the teachers are visually impaired as well. So, you know, the what they've done with what it is that they have in life, they're no different than you and me. They are no different than you and me. I mean, the kids are no different than my kids. They're teenagers, or when my kids were teenagers. But I mean, they're just they want to have fun. They like to do goofy stuff sometimes. You know, it's just they're normal people, and I want people to understand that they have normal lives like we do, and that we have blind spots. So our blind spots are that we don't think that they can do much, or we don't think that, you know, oh, I can't give this to them, or no, I got to change this for them. No, you don't. Give it to them the way you would give someone else. I'm thinking of some of my speaker friends, because I'm thinking of having them get involved with the students, you know, in the after-school program. And that's what I am responsible for. I'm the site coordinator for the after-school program, and we have many clubs that we help them with. But some of the clubs also have speakers and volunteers come in from time to time. So that's why I was thinking of my speaker friends, not fully understanding, not fully coming to grips with what it is these students are all about.
And then also you have request specific pictures from other people. Can you share what it is that you request?
Well, that was the part of the presentation that I didn't quite get to today. So it's a great part of my program where I help people to understand what makes them unique. Well, one of the things that makes me unique is not my appearance, but it's my positive personality. So I encourage people to get into pictures with me. Normally when I'm at a conference and I'm with people in person, you know, back before COVID, I will stand and I'll take a selfie with them, and I'll encourage them to wink with me. I call these pictures winking with Wagner. And as the person is standing there winking with me, I want them to be thinking, well, you know, if this guy with one eye open knows what makes him unique, and it's not the fact that he only has one eye that's open, wonder what makes me unique. Huh. That's really important. So now what I do is I encourage people to wink without me. So I've had many pictures taken where I've asked different people that I've spoken to or spoken for since COVID, and they actually send me pictures of themselves winking with me. So again, that gets them to thinking, you know, if this guy knows, I wonder what makes me unique. So that's why I actually had you send me a picture as well of you winking without Wagner.
Yes,
Connie.
I did that, and I sent it a little bit too late to be used.
Well, if you will let me share my screen, I'll bring it up.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop you. I can't. So, but I think the message behind that is, that was earlier today.
Yeah.
The message behind that is that all of us have, you know, as Brian was saying, something unique, and being able to share that uniqueness, even if it looks like a disability, but being able to transform it into something that really is, shows the world the power of the differences, how important that is. And so I winked for Wagner today. And if you all want to send him a picture of yourself winking to add to his collection, certainly we can send you the information that you need in order to get that done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Please do, and I post these to Facebook. So, and they're just my personal Facebook account. They don't go out to everybody. So they're there, and it's just a great collection, and it's a really good way for us all to learn what makes us unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so Brian, I wanted to take a few minutes and share with the folks that are watching a little bit of the updates from Angioma Alliance. So I just wanted to, at this point, is there anything else that you would like to share and let folks know about before we transition over to my stuff?
I don't think so. Any way that you can get connected with me, I encourage you to do that. I'm sure Connie's going to share my information here. Again, you know, I'd love to serve your organization again in whatever way is appropriate. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate you having me on today, Connie. Thank you.
You're very welcome. You can stick around for just a minute. I just want to make sure you see the comments that people have left of.
Okay.
Tyler, who's on our board, says, great stuff. Thank you, Brian and Connie Lee. Sorry, thank you to Connie Wagner as well. And then Margaret Maggie Whittam says, thank you, Brian. So I think
great. You're welcome.
You struck some chords. Oh, wait, someone else just said something. So someone asks, I missed the beginning of your talk, but did you have any therapy to make peace with your new future and its new challenges? Did you speak with anybody else who had a bleed? This is someone from the UK who's written in. They offer a program called Buddies, and they do offer also support groups. I'm not sure it's really therapy that they do, but therapy in groups is the way she phrased it here in the UK. Did you have any kind of a support system of people who have the illness?
I did not. I recognized some people when I went in for my surgery that morning, or not the morning, it was the day before when I went in for the consultation with Dr. Spetzler. There was a gentleman there that had come in, and he had just experienced a brain bleed. He was totally blind. There was nothing he could do. I saw the fear and panic on his face. That was therapy for me. I still remember it to this day, and it's been 9 years ago. So that's therapy for me to understand that, you know, what I have a gift. I mean, I have a gift that I had so much damage to my vision that I still can't see, and it's still obvious that I can't see, but it's still apparent that I am seeing well enough and look well enough to be able to share the conversation with people and to help other people to be encouragers. So that's why it's so important for me to be able to do what I do.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. And this provides a good transition, since I'm about to talk to people who do reach out for support and have the opportunity to share with others. And Tracy followed up by saying, you are an inspiration, and thank you. For Angioma Alliance in the next month, during the course of June, as you all know, this is June Awareness, International Cavernous Angioma Awareness Month, or Cavernoma Awareness Month, depending on how you call your illness. First, I wanted to share with you just some research that came out in the last week that was published. A good number of you were part of the reason that this research happened. It was a microbiome study, and a lot of you gave a sample in order to be part of the study and help the University of Chicago and their partners learn a little bit more about the gut and how the gut impacts cavernous angioma disease. And so the paper published in Nature Communications last week basically outlined that people with cavernous angioma, no matter whether they have the familial, so the hereditary form, or whether they have the sporadic form, do have differences in the composition of their gut microbiome. They have more of certain bacteria and less of other bacteria. The ones they have more of are generally considered more harmful. The ones they have less of are generally considered more helpful. That was something that had already been seen in mice. And this was back in 2017. The research was done at the University of Pennsylvania, and that's really where we discovered that there was a link between the microbiome and cavernous angioma disease. So what both the mice and the people demonstrated is that having this different microbiome does change what happens with your cavernous angioma disease. If you have small lesions, the extent to which the microbiome is impacted and the inflammation that it causes, the worse the disease is. And that happens both for mice and for humans. So, but here's the part of it that needs to be understood, is that this is not actionable at this time. There is nothing that we can do to change the composition of our microbiome in an informed and intelligent and potentially not harmful way. It's just too complex of a system. I mean, it's like you have your own little ecosystem in your tummy, and that is what you're trying to mess with. And when you change one thing, that impacts other things, and we don't know yet how to do that. So the papers that came out in 2017 and the paper that came out in last week, that's where they were at, that cavernous angioma is probably worsened by this gut microbiome issue. In some cases, it may even cause the formation of new lesions in the hereditary form, for example. What is actionable is the information that came out last November. Last November, there was again a paper published by the University of Pennsylvania with other partners talking about the impact of the integrity of the gut lining. So you can have all the crappy bacteria you want in your gut as long as they stay there. That's what you want. You want the bacteria to not move out into the rest of your system and create those inflammatory conditions. And the best way to do that is to protect the lining of your gut. The lining of your gut is made of just this thin layer, a mucus layer. And if you have an opportunity, go on our YouTube channel and watch Diane Darcy's presentation. She was a nutritionist that spoke at our family conference in November and gave a really lay-friendly, basic description of what your gut lining is like and what can help. But what we know is that foods that are heavy in preservatives act like soap to your gut lining and wipe it out. And so those are things that we need to stay away from. And we know that fruits and vegetables are protective, if not, and in many cases will improve your gut lining. So those are things to have more of. And when we produced a CCM cookbook with contributions from many of our members, and we'll probably try to do that with new recipes again later this year. That is actionable. That is something that you can do to change the impact of having a microbiome that's not optimal on your cavernous angioma disease. So please eat right. That's the thing. Eat right. Cook. Don't buy from the middle of the store. Buy from around the edges of the store. So there's that. And then folks have also been asking about COVID and about the COVID being a blood vessel disease. And that's something that we can't tell you a whole lot about yet because this is all new. COVID is novel coronavirus. That means we have never seen it before on this planet in humans. And so anything that happens around COVID is something that's happening for the first time, and we're just learning. We are in, we have a CCM COVID patient registry. So should anyone in our group who has a CCM diagnosis and still has a cavernous angioma, if you're post-surgical, I think that's a little bit different. But if you still have a lesion and you should have a positive test for COVID, be it a PCR test, an antigen test, or an antibody test, let us know about you. Angioma.org/COVID is where you just give us your name and your contact information, and we will get back to you and set up a time to hear about what your experience was. And once we have enough people, here's the thing, like we started this COVID registry back at the end of March, and we've had like 5 people so far, which is not good because we don't have a whole lot of more information, but it's great because that means maybe people are really staying at home and not getting infected and exposed. So Dr. Watt also was asked, and in previous webinars, do we know about increased risk to people with CCM? There is a statement on our website that the Scientific Advisory Board put together explaining what the potential risks are or what populations are more at risk. And typically it's the people that you would think of, those who have had a recent hemorrhage, those who have an active seizure disorder, et cetera, et cetera. You can go and look on our website. It's the same place, angioma.org/COVID, and see it. And again, we don't know, but what we do know is that the way to protect yourself is to not get exposed in the first place. And if you can stay home, as hard as that is, stay home. And if you're out in public, wear a mask and try to stay in places where people are wearing masks. And I know that differs depending on your geography, but that is the one thing that you can do, is to try to not get exposed in the first place until we have a vaccine and better treatments for COVID. So I think those are the 2 science-y things that I wanted to make sure I talked about. And then June, as I mentioned, is our International Awareness Month, and we'd like to make sure that our community understands that they are a community, that you are a community, you're part of our community. And this is our opportunity to share with each other as a community and to participate in activities together, to take what we've learned and to move forward with it. And so our theme this month, for this year, is believe the fight continues, and the fight continues for better treatments, better care, and a larger community and more awareness. So there's a lot of fights going on. And one of our initiatives during that started yesterday, but you're not too late if you sign up now, and it is Move to a Cure. What we're asking folks to do is commit to moving in any way that you are able to for 30 minutes a day. Not a big commitment, just 30 minutes a day. And as I wrote, walk into the refrigerator counts, because we are not counting calories, we are only counting minutes. When you make that commitment, there are links all over the place from our website, from our Facebook. Go to one of those links that will allow you to set up your own page that states your commitment. Please put a little bit of your story on it and share it with your friends and family. Allow them to be part of your team and do the movement too, because it's always better when you're doing it together. Or allow them to make a donation, because this is a time where they can support you in moving toward a cure by helping us to make that happen. As you all are probably aware, all of our in-person events have so far this year have been canceled through September. So we are, we're completely fundraising online. And this is one of the ways that we're trying to make that happen. And so at the end of the month, on the 28th of June, this will end with a finale. And the finale is going to be streamed live to, we're going to try for Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, I think. And it will have music from people who are connected to Angioma Alliance. It will have some of you sharing your stories. And hopefully, if I can get people to video themselves offering us some words of encouragement and hope, some more prominent people will get that done too. And then the final part of this month, it just keeps rolling, and I'm sure I'm going to think of 7 other things to add on to it because, mine keeps spinning. But we have a silent auction, and it's online. It starts about the middle of the month. There's some really neat things that people have already offered to give services. For example, we have a member who's offered 10 hours of math and physics tutoring. I mean, seriously, this is like gold, or it would have been gold in my house when it was high school time, and I'm sure it could be gold in yours. Services are being offered, items are being offered. We have the chair of our board happens to work for Procter & Gamble, and so he's offering a basket of essentials, including toilet paper. So if you've been having trouble getting it, you can bid on it and it can be delivered to your house. Another one of our board members owns a company that that distributes various things, and she's going to put together a PPE basket that will include gloves and whatever else it is that she thinks that you might need. So we have some themed things having to do with quarantine, but we also have just a lot of fun stuff. And it's not too late to donate. If there's something that you think of, a service that you can offer, or an object that you have that you think would be valuable for our auction, or at this point we can even think about doing hotels and flights and things like that. It can't probably be used this year, but if there's no expiration dates on them, we're happy to take them from you and offer them. We're happy to take them from you and offer them for auction so that all of us can benefit from them. It's an exciting year. As much as COVID has shut things down, it hasn't stopped a lot of the work that's been moving forward. It's put a little bit of a delay in a few things, but all of the important stuff, and I've put this out, I think, everywhere that I can, all the important stuff is still happening. The researchers are still talking to each other. The mice live on and will continue to live on, as well as the fish and the worms. Certainly we at Angioma Alliance are as busy as we have ever been because that's what we need to be. That's the work that we do. So I want to thank all of you for taking the time. We're a couple minutes over, but we didn't do too badly. And for joining us. And we don't have another webinar on the schedule yet, but on Friday nights, Darla and Lindsay always host a support group meeting. Please join them. It's on Zoom. It's 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock California time, Pacific time. And they're happy to spend time with you and get to know you. So Brian, I want to thank you. This has been wonderful. And Brian's information is brian@aradicalvision.com. But I will make sure that information gets out to all of you too who signed up for the webinar, and we'll put it on Facebook. So
that's Brian with one eye.
Brian with one eye. Yep. But it's brian@aradicalvision.com. Thank you.
Thank you.